Shalom, giving all praise to Yahweh, Hashem, Shai, Hashem, Rakakwadash, Shalom to the 144,000, the rest of the elect out there, Shalom to you all. And I'm going to entitle this video, let me bring it up, Don't Team Up with Those Who Are Unbelievers. That's from 2 Corinthians 6, verse 14, and the NLT. Don't team up with those who are unbelievers. How can righteousness be a partner with wickedness? How can light live with darkness? What harmony can there be between the Messiah and the devil? How can a believer or Israelite that believes be a partner with an unbeliever? 16 verse. And what union can there be between the Most High's temple and idols, or a mosque, or a cathedral, or a synagogue? When you go to the origins of the whole Hebrew Israelite thing, you had the Rabbi Matthews, you had Throth, I think one of them was named as SS Cherry, something like that, and then you had Abba, and they were at that time they were working with the small hats. They would go to the temple with the small hats. It's no different than Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu originated in Japan. There's a Japanese businessman that came to Brazil, and the Gracie clan leader, head of the family at that time, helped this Japanese businessman establish himself in Brazil. And to show his appreciation, he said, I'm going to show you real jiu-jitsu from Japan. Jiu-jitsu became judo, which is, you can really hurt somebody really bad with jiu-jitsu. You can hurt them with judo, but more so with jiu-jitsu. You can really hurt somebody. You can kill somebody with jiu-jitsu. You can with judo, but it's more, judo means a gentle way. The origins of judo goes back to the samurai when they would fight and they would grapple. Let's say a guy would lose his sword or they would get close, and then they would have to learn joint manipulations. And it really works. But so the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu became worldwide, and the Japanese couldn't compete with them because they lost the art of Jiu-Jitsu. So you know what they had to do? The Japanese had to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to get their art back. So the same thing goes with this thing becoming an Israelite. The small hats, what do we learn in Hebrew? From them. You know, the books and all that. That's why back then, during the time of Abba and those people, the commandment keepers and so forth, they had to deal with the small hats to get certain things from them. So it's the same. So I gave you the perfect example, right? But eventually what happened, there was break-offs, splits. You know, Abba went his way. He went into the New Testament. And these guys stayed in the Old Testament, the Torah. They were rubbing elbows with small hats. So now we got the Hebrew, you know, the doctrine, the Hebrew Israelite doctrine, you can call it. So we shouldn't get with Christians. We shouldn't, the Baptists and the Hebrews get together. No, the Baptists don't have the truth. That's why I read what I just read. I'm going to continue to read. It says, and what union can there be between the Most High's temple and idols? Now, if you go to a Baptist, let's say there's a wedding. You know, your best friend or whatever the case may be, your mother, she ain't a believer, or she goes to church, and you might have to go to the church there because of the sake of your mother, but you don't believe in that. You know, you're just there present at that thing. Maybe she gets married again or whatever the case may be. Or I want my oldest son to be here You let them understand, well, I'm not a Baptist. I'll go to give give my blessings or whatever in the church, but I have nothing to do with the church, right? And so for we are the temple of the living power, as the Most High said, I will live in them, the Israelites, starting with the elect, and walk with them. I will be their power, and they shall be my people. Therefore, come out from among unbelievers and separate yourselves from them, says Yahweh. Don't touch their filthy things, and I will welcome you, and I will be your father, and you will be my sons and daughters, says Yahweh Almighty. So now let's go here. This is the video put up by Remnant Say 144, entitled Why Linking Up with NOI, which is the nation of Israel, is spiritual fornication and history you should know. So I'm listening to it, watching it, and then this pops up. Something else pops up before this. This is paperwork dealing with the tax status of the IUIC, which happens. This one is from Arizona, right? In care of name Nathaniel Ray, organization overview and rankings. Israel United in Christ. That's not a good thing. Christ. We don't believe in it. Christ. You might say Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Christ. That's not his real name. Actually, Christ is a title. Inc. is a base or is based in Phoenix, Arizona. And this is why they got ousted out of France, because they got paperwork. They're recognized by the government of France, but they said, you guys are too racist. We're gonna, even in churches, they'll drop your charter. Let's say you got a church, bunch of Edomites down south. They want you to vote for Trump, but the pastor can't say you got to vote for Trump, because you can lose your status. So it says focus on religion-related spiritual development causes, specifically Islamic. That's not a good thing. So what if we say, okay, we're going to establish a church, we're going to get paperwork, we're going to get a 501c3, and then there's nothing that says anything about Israelites. There's no law on how does an Israelite roll. That's why they had to either say they were Christians, which they were going off on, or Islamic. But what if we said religious-related spiritual development causes, specifically witchcraft? Can you imagine? Yeah, GMS, they saying that they're witches. They're witches. No, we're not saying that. We're just. This is how we get a charter, because there's nothing specific in a law, federal law, whatever state law, that speaks about the Israelites. So we had to, in order for us to get the charter, we had to pick a religious group, and we just threw a coin up, and it landed on Lot, and it landed on witchcraft religion. So we said, so when you read the information on GMS, it says focus on religious-related spiritual development causes, specifically witchcraft. Can you imagine that? But no, you can't explain that, brother Tahar. You a witch. I always knew you was a warlock, nigga. So why isn't there any hoopla about them calling themselves Islamic? And then on top of that, they trying to get together first of all, you're not going to get together with them. And you can't walk on eggshells around Jakes. I want to use the N-word. So here we go. Matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do? Let me play a little of this. I don't want to make this long, but...
sold out. Okay, those were the ones.
And like I said, this is the reason why France... They didn't say, you guys that call yourself Israelites, we're going to kick you out the country. They just dropped their charter. They dropped their paperwork. The government does not recognize them as being a group. And you can't take it to the Supreme Court because that's France.
Who were heavily persecuting Yahweh Shai and were responsible for, having him offered up to be sacrificed. But as you can see, for some reason, this group is linked, with Islam. And it's very weird. All right, here it is even. Okay, you look at this post from IUIC there in the Bay Area, IUIC San Jose. Although, San Jose is not technically the Bay Area, but it's in that area. It says, IUIC San Jose, can the Christian church and the Israelites work together to rebuild Black, Hispanic, and Native American communities? It's a question many avoid, but Reverend Dr. Jeffrey Parker of the Church of All Faiths in Oakland, that's where I'm from, is ready to explore the answer. Okay, so here they're not only are they linking with Islam, they're linking with the Christian church. All right, here at the very end.
Okay, so GMS can link up with warlocks, witches, right? We're just getting there together with the witch coven. We're going joining hand in hand with them because some of them are Jake, and we're going to try to bring them over to Israel. And the only way we can get our charter, and we got to work to help the community. First of all, where does the scripture say you got to work to save the community or all Israel? That's not your job if you're a prophet, The scriptures speak about the elect. Most High is only dealing with the elect. Now you see this guy right here showing you that they're not dealing with the true gospel in the scriptures. Look at how long this guy's hair is, and they're not getting him on it. Now when you go to the Apostle Paul spoke about men having long hair because where did they get it from? They got it from the culture. They were Hellenized. So in the Greek culture, young men had long hair to make them more handsome. I did a video on that, and older men had long hair to make them, or ugly men had long hair to make them look more fierce. So this guy's completely out of order, and there you got a leader right there not correcting this guy. And when we say it, they'll play games with the scriptures. Oh, you can have long hair, but it can't be feminine. Like, in other words, if he ain't got a bow on his hair, so that's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. These guys are masters of manipulation. So let's listen on.
And as we're getting ready to, undergo a lot of persecution, a lot of judgment, you have to ask yourself what's going on with these camps. They're doing these fundraisers. They've pretty much merged themselves with the world. And because you people are so simple and you're flabbergasted by the world, you want to see this world progress. You're not even questioning it. All right, but the prophets of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai have always been.
Hey, Al-Azhar made a statement, and we got on him about it. This is before all this other stuff came out about him. But this was about maybe 2-3 weeks before that. He did an interview with somebody. I think it was No Jumper, and he said, the interviewer said, "Well, when are you Israelites planning to be saved?" He said it could happen anytime. He said it can happen between now and the next 1,000 years. Only group that got on him was the men of the GMS. We said, where's that in the scripture? Matthew 24 and many other scriptures tell you, Matthew 24, for example, the 3rd verse on down, the disciples asked the Lord, when shall be that coming, and of the end of the word was end of the age. Then he went down, if you see these signs, then you know it's coming. So the signs been here since, really World War I. You had that was supposed to be the war to end all wars. You had World War II, you had the Vietnam conflict, Korean conflict. You have all these other wars with the Arabs. You had nothing but back-to-back wars. The American Edomite, they have secret wars. There's wars going on that they don't, say that, though this is a war. Occupation is a war. When you got military bases in other nations, that means you have control over that place. That's an occupation, which is war. In a sense, these other nations are like prisoners, really like prisoners of war, because there were stories of in Okinawa, which you have a military base out there, with these Americans raping some Japanese women, and they really couldn't. The Japanese government the Okinawan government wanted to bring them to justice, and they played with the numbers and they got out of it because they occupy. That's an occupation. Occupation just means this: we took your country over, but you can still run your country like you do, but we're going to put a puppet leader up. But we really run shit. The buck stops with us.
Been at the forefront of rebuking wicked leadership for these wicked happenings. Okay, now, before I start, I wanted to show you that, first and foremost, the Nation of Islam, who these guys are joining hand in hand with, they do not acknowledge Yahweh Shai as the Son of the Most High. Okay, I'm going to play this. All right, and we're going to get a few things, and then ultimately.
And so they might as well be witches. They might as well be witches. You guys should have got with the witches out there, black witches, black warlocks. You should have got with a black coven. We're going to get together to help the community. Nowhere in the scriptures where it says help the community. When it was said about you could have gave that oil, remember when the whole thing with the oil on Yahweh Shai's feet, and I believe it was Judas Iscariot that said it. I'm not going to go to it. You can put up there. He said that's expensive oils. It could have been given to the poor. The Lord didn't say, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to snap my fingers and everybody that's poor is going to become rich. Because it's easy to make a poor man rich on the sudden. That's in the Apocrypha. What was the response? He said, the poor shall always be with you. And not too many words. So this stuff, we got to uplift the community. No, that's not in the scriptures. It's about gathering the elect.
You be edified, because we know what the scriptures say. Okay? We know what the scriptures say. Okay? This is the book of 2 Corinthians 6:14. It says, be ye not unequally yoked.
I didn't know he was going to go there, but I had an idea he would. But you read it in the NLT, it gives you different outlook.
Together with unbelievers, for what hath fellowship what hath the fellowship of righteousness with unrighteousness, and what hath communion, all right, and what communion hath light with darkness, and what concurred hath Yahweh Shai with Belial. All right, now who is Belial? That's Baal, and the scriptures warned us not to bow the knee. All right, so why would you have fellowship with it as concerning the ministry? Okay, because they'll bring out the scripture, or to the Jew I became a Jew, to those who were Gentiles I became the Gentiles. But those Gentiles who ultimately were entered into the fold, those Israelite foreigners, were given strict. Let's get that in the book of Acts, the 15th chapter, real quick. They were given strict commandment, okay, when there was a council on how they were to come into the fold. Acts 15:19, wherefore my sentence is that we trouble them not which from among the Gentiles are turned unto the Most High, but that we write unto them that they abstain from pollution of idols. Okay, the Nation of Islam is an idol. Okay, I don't give a goddamn how cool they are. Okay, yeah, I'll go to a bakery or a shop that may be owned by them and get some food. But when it comes to this ministry, right? When it comes to this ministry, we're not merging hand in hand. Okay, we were told to abstain from the pollution of idols and from fornication and from things strangled. So when you try to bring up the scripture, well, to the Jews I became a Jew, to the Gent, that was dealing with the church of Yahweh Shai, because you had particular members of the church of Yahweh Shai. The foundation was the Jews, okay, the circumcision, those who were raised in the customs, all right, those of the Maccabees and those who did not bow or bend to the Greco-Roman gods. But you had many Israelites who did. And as they were brought back into the fold through faith in Yahweh Shai, they were told to abstain from idols. And the Nation of Islam is an idol. It's an harlot. And Israel has always played the harlot with these gods.
Yeah, so you can understand when you read Acts 15, the whole chapter, the argument was about circumcision, whether they should get circumcised or not. And they had the meeting in Jerusalem. The head apostle, Peter and James, they said, you don't got to get circumcised, but there's certain things you got to stop doing. You know, it speaks about the, animal dying of itself, draining the blood. And the Jehovah's Witnesses say that means don't have a blood transfusion. You shouldn't have a blood transfusion anyway, but that's not what it's talking about. And fornication, which means adultery. Anytime you read the word fornication in the New Testament, it means adultery, because that's a sin unto death. Now, the high holy days, the Sabbath and so forth, the Sabbath is a sin unto death. You break the Sabbath, you can be put to death. But the Apostle Paul said in Colossians 2:16, don't let nobody judge you. In other words, which is something to come in the future, which is a shadow of the future concerning the law. The law is going to be done in the kingdom. So if you're a Israelite coming out of that Gentile state of mind, we're not gonna lay laws on you. We're not gonna dump the laws on you. Even Peter said that. It was either Peter or James. He said that we're not going to put the laws on you like the wicked scribes and Pharisees put the law on us like a yoke. Because as you grow into this thing, you realize that you're an Israelite. You begin to start keeping the laws. You got a lot of brothers that come in this thing with tattoos and things that they did, before they came into the truth.
All right, on their own agenda and mission. Okay, and ended up in a worse position.
Hey, look, I'm looking at America's done. I just looked at this school budget meltdown. Right now, this says why I should see this. It says why public schools or U.S. public schools are going broke in the U.S. You can see the graph there. This place is done.
Than before. Now, Bilal.
Trump is not going to save it either. He's making it worse. He's making it worse. And you got Biden was asleep at the wheel. Then they got Trump in there, and Trump is a madman trying to run everybody over. This place is done. The only thing left is some great chipping, and then the deliverance and the destruction in the kingdom of heaven. So when that happens, everything's gonna move lightning fast. Because it could take 2 weeks to test everybody. If they make it mandatory, which they are gonna do it's gonna start voluntarily, then it's gonna become mandatory. And people are going to get shooken up, and they're going to run and take it. And then Mosai said, okay, everybody that was supposed to take it. Now I can take this place down. This place cannot be pulled, burnt down, taken down, destroyed by the missiles unless and until the microchip comes to pass. That's why that fulfillment of the microchip comes to pass. That's why we always defending it. That's just on record. That's a fact. GMS is the premier group that teaches the mark of the beast, is the micro C-hip. So when that time comes, when they get the chip, they're going to realize that a prophet has been among them. They're going to realize that who are the chosen, pursuant to 2 Ezra chapter 16. Then it shall be known who are my chosen, and the exact words.
Or
because that MOTB is a prophecy. So if it doesn't come to pass, you can call it false prophets. But anybody that teaches that it's not going to come to pass and it doesn't mean that, guess what? You are going to be found out to be being a false prophet.
All right, Ba-la Ya'al, all right, or Baal, all right, worthless or wickedness, all right. Well, this is different than Baal, but it's all in the same realm, all right. It says Ba-la Ya'al, worthless or wicked, name of Satan, okay. And that's these particular idols, okay. Basically, Satan. It's an adversary. Okay, let's get the root word. Okay, Bayal. All right, or Bala.
You see, he's going into the Hebrews. You get a deeper understanding when you go into the scriptures. But anyway, I said I was going to make this long. Anyway, on to the next Shalom.